What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your daily creative reading for October 11th. There was not much content on here for the past couple of days, mostly just because I was with family. Here in Canada, it's Thanksgiving weekend, and I spent it with my granny and that side of the family. So I just wanted to be fully present and prioritize time with them. Because it's it's just something to cherish, that's for sure. My granny turned 85. She's turning 85 this week, so that's exciting. The finest Libra I know. But nonetheless, let's dive in. Let me just close the window in case there's a train that goes through. As exciting as it is, it can sometimes be interrupting the reading. So, Spirit, what message do you have for my daily creatives for October 11th? Ethereal touch. Ooh. I feel like there's I'm seeing like a feather falling, but it's almost like a wish. Like there's a wish that is just gently, like there's something that's just got this gentle touch. Like there's something about the way that you're wishing, or there's wishes that you're making, and there's like a gentle touch. An ethereal touch is really, that's what's on the card, but it's like this very gentle touch that I'm getting. Here, I'll put it over here so you can see it. Not that you can see it from that far away, but still. Okay. Spirit, what messages do you have for October 11th? Before we dive in to the Hero's Journey spread. Gifts received. Yeah, this is like the wish that it's almost like there's something that is unassuming. Like it's just because, when those like fluff, I want to say like wish fluff. I don't know. It makes it sound like a marshmallow spread. Good Lord. This is like, I'm seeing it as unassuming, like something that's just falling through, like it's just crossing your consciousness. So there could be like a thought this week or an idea that kind of crosses your conscious awareness, and you don't really see it. It's like gifts received. Like you need to be prepared to receive gifts, and that's something about abundance here, especially with the green. I'm also getting the heart center. But there's it's like you have to be prepared to receive gifts in order to see them on your path. So if you're not prepared to receive them, and this isn't saying like, it's not to be in an entitled energy, but you are in a way entitled to a good life by virtue of being here. Like, and I think that part of the reason why we feel such intense discord at times is because we know at a fundamental level that life is not, it's supposed to be so rich and good and full and all of those things. So, there are gifts that are, I feel like I don't want to even say they're on their way to you. Like they're around you. But have you been in an expectant vibration, right? To use Abraham Hicks terminology. Have you been expecting the good? Woman of light. Could be angelic helpers. With purple, that tends to mean to me Saint Germain. So it could be violet flame that you're working with. But in general, this card tends to represent to me like angelic helpers, guide synchronicities, that kind of thing. It's just spirit whispering in your ear and saying, you remember that you're worth it, right? So just be on the lookout for that this week in particular. Which deck would you prefer that I use? Ooh, that was strong. Okay, thank you, Spirit. Okay. What messages do you have for my daily creatives for October 11th, Spirit? The Hanged One. The call to adventure is not. No, I'm kidding. I think it's just to take a different perspective, to take a little bit of a different look. There's almost like a divine pause, and maybe that's tied to this, like seeing this sort of unassuming gift. Seeing the unassuming gift. And it's not unassuming because of anything to do with it, but because of where your vibration has been trained, right? Where you've been looking. And like, in some ways it can feel like, I don't know. It's not even about looking in the wrong direction. It's like, I think that what this is about is being willing to see yourself, your own nonsense, your own patterns. And also through that, there's like gifts that you receive, right? Like sometimes I have wild dreams, and some of them are very, very vivid, but then other times it's like what meaning you make of them, right? What meaning do you make of them? Because not all of them are going to mean something profound, but there's some that stick with you for a reason. So why is that? 444 on the time. My hand's itchy. So it's like asking yourself, like, why do those things stick with me? Why do they stick around? And what is it that resonates so profoundly, right? So it's about being in that, because then that takes dreams from a place of just being something that happens to you, and it turns it into something that allows you to, it's almost like, I'm hearing catalytic converter. I'm not a cars person. I know my car color and I know the model and the year, but that's it. Like, so anyway, I feel like it's like alchemy, right? That's what it kind of does, and it turns it into. Now the refusal is the 7 of Wands. I almost get that there's like, and this is where it's like your vibration has been trained, I don't want to say in a defensive mode, but in an over advocating, right? Explaining, like over explaining things, explaining to the nth degree. And I've been guilty of this too, even, certain friendships and things like that, where it's like when you're in a specific vibration and you haven't fully faced what it is that needs to be healed, you will call people to you that call these behaviors out of you. Self-healer soundboard was great today, 555 on the time. Today's Monday. Oh my gosh. I don't even know what date it is because there's a holiday. Nonetheless, it's the Monday, but I listened to the Self-Healer soundboard about bullying. And one of the things that they talked about was how we kind of call these things to us. We call these situations to us. And that's not to, like, keep in perspective, of course, and not victim shaming, because they added that caveat too. But this is about looking at situations where, why is it that we call specific people to us over and over again? And it's like to validate the belief that we have that's underlying it, right? So it's almost like this is like, it's like you need to see what you've been calling to you and what that validates, right? What is it that's being validated by virtue of where you are, right? Do you believe fundamentally that you're bad? Do you believe like that, I've been working on a lot of money things recently, and just like that sense of security and stability is one thing, but then thriving and not having to explain your thriving to anyone or justify it, right? Just being able to thrive is brilliant, and really sinking into that vibration, right? So, and seeing that, seeing evidence of that outside of you is the best thing. That tells you that you're starting to line up to it, like like you're starting to see it. And then when you see it, you begin to realize that you're also being the feeling. You're being the feeling. So there's something here about that I'm getting as part of this refusal, where it's like the refusal in the hero's journey spread that I built is not, this isn't about refusing to, it's not like a no. It's not like that. This is where it's hesitation, right? The hesitation may be that this is how you've made meaning before, right? You've validated yourself and you validated the beliefs, but it was so unconscious, right? It was so unconscious, 10 of Wands, because you've been busy carrying a lot of burdens with you, right? And this is like old beliefs, outdated beliefs that don't work anymore. This is exactly what it's here intuitively. Yeah. But it's like there's a release here. And I think that the call is to know your power, right? You can't go into this position without having a modicum of power and self-empowerment, right? Because you are going into this position because it's an enlightenment that you're seeking and acquiring. I get that that's where the call is, to look at patterns, to look at beliefs and how they might have constricted your fire, not just your creative capacity, but your ability to feel passion with people, with another person in particular. Like if you're coming here for romance, right? How does your energy get frustrated along the way? And what does it say that it needs to be in these, like, if this is the way, if this is just like habit, right? And like, if this has been out of habit, how are you using your fire differently? How are you using your fire differently? And maybe the gift is just, this gifts received here is just perspective, right? Maybe it's just perspective. The energy of what could become a tower if it goes unchecked is the 6 of Pentacles. Oh, the 6 of Wands fell on top of that. Interesting. I'm going to take it because it feels quite connected here. And it's almost like I'm getting that there's an even exchange on the one hand, but it's like you're conceiving of yourself as, and this is so cool. Thank you so much, Spirit. What just came to mind was like, the victory that you want and seek, right? The victory that you're seeking has a lot to do with abundance. It has a lot to do with a feeling of abundance. And usually that's true for a lot of different things. Now, what the Six of Pentacles talks about in this particular iteration that I'm picking up on is a way of like conceiving of yourself as giving, and this drawing abundance to you, specifically because it hit on the money stuff that I talked about. But this could also just be your energy, right? Energy can be like fucking delicious. It can be so tasty that it can be like a pentacle. Like somebody wants to invest in you. That's an energy that's a pentacle, right? So seeing yourself in that way as a source of abundance that isn't just like calling money to you. That's not just calling resources to pay for things. It's not a transactional exchange, right? Though this can represent transactional, right? This can represent that act of like you, like there's like an even give and take. But I think that in order to see yourself as victorious or to be victorious over this wand, right? This is a reconfiguration of your wand energy in that your power to move forward, it was almost like frustrated because you couldn't see how this, like these patterns of giving and receiving were kind of blocking you. So it could have been that you were seeing things as transactional, but then you never figured yourself into the equation of receiving. Right. And if I know, and I'm starting to, well, I think this is true for empaths, that boundaries can be like a different kind of negotiation altogether when they're coupled with beliefs that we undo or rewrite for ourselves, right? So I almost get that there's like this victory and this victorious way that you're seeing yourself. Now, what's beautiful here is this is coming out as the Tower if it goes unchecked. And I feel like there's a perspective that you hold where it's almost like you're seeing victory, but you're not conceiving this kind of abundance as the same thing, 1111 on the time. You're not seeing abundance as kind of victorious, like it's almost like they're outside of one another. The protagonist energy is death and the Scorpio card. So this to me is about transforming that. This is like your innate power. You have this innate power to transform not just situations in your favor, but yourself to seek out new situations. This is beautiful energy because even if this tower falls and hits your awareness in a sharp way, I don't see it as being such. But this is choices, right? The sixes represent the Lover's card, which in the traditional Rider-Waite is the choice card. So what I'm seeing here is it's what you're prioritizing. When you prioritize the changing of beliefs, it's almost like a changing of the guard, which then translates into a changing season for you. I think of this is, again, I've said this before, but the Death card is one of my favorite ones in the entire friggin' deck. I love it so much. It reminds me of fall, which we're in the middle of right now. But I mean, in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, I'm in Southern Ontario. 1212 was just on the time. But it's like that crisp smell of an October morning when the trees are starting to change and you see all of the rich colors. I think of the reds because of all the maples, on a hike that I was on, when I went to see family this weekend. And I was like, it's like ketchup chip trees. That's what it reminds me of. But like the ketchup chip dust. But all of that nonsense aside, I do think that your best friend right now is breaking something down so that you can rebuild it. And don't do it just for the exercise. Like, don't do it as a thought exercise or anything like that. Really be willing to let a transformation take place. Not let a transformation take place. Let me narrow this down more in the way that it's coming through energetically. Letting a transformation take place means that you're willing to surrender your ideas of what should happen or should have happened. Okay, should have happened as well. Put both together. And you're allowing in what's meant for you. 1313 was just on the time. You're allowing in what's meant for you, and that's shifting your understanding and conception of meaning, right? That's, this rules the 8th house. Scorpio rules the 8th house. I keep thinking that my Scorpio is in the 8th house, but it's not, because my Pluto is in Scorpio. Anyways, I get this mixed up sometimes, but one of the energies that I love about this is its transformation, and the 8th house rules like kind of sex, death, and taxes, right? And it's like anyways. But it's not just those things inherently. It's the way that they transform or the transformative capacity of them for us, right? It's not just about like sex in terms of like the death card is like this dark and scary thing. It's not like that. That's the very limited misunderstood reading of it, right? Very basic level. I'm seeing that this is your protagonist because it's the transformative capacity of it to take you to a deeper place within you that doesn't just ask questions, but that finds answers to the questions. And the fact that it's coming from within you is what's really your kind of superpower here. There's a lot of water energy as well as fire, because we have Pisces and Neptune energy here with the Hanged One. And this is where you're kind of seeing perhaps things that you believed about yourself that don't need to be true anymore. And like that kind of, you're retiring. This is what I see as the 10 of Wands here, is like you're retiring the need to believe in things that no longer serve you. So when it comes to the Six of Wands and the Six of Pentacles, the reason why that can become a tower is if the alarm is going off that these things have expired, right? You don't eat food that's beyond its expiry date, but yet we do carry beliefs around with us that have surpassed their expiry date. So this is about releasing and letting those things go. In a more obvious reading of it. But I think that this is really your superpower right now, is the Death card. Yeah. And the Strength card is your antagonist energy, which tells me, and then the World on the bottom. You are cycling out, that's for damn sure. But I feel like the Strength card here, it can represent a power struggle of sorts. So I feel like there's a need to like step back and not just see it, but see, this is also a fire card, right? So this is Leo energy. And I feel like this is the integration. This is the fire that's now accessible once you let transformations happen. And sometimes it's as easy as, saying, you know what, I don't really know what this is for. I don't know what this is for. And, there are times where I'm not great at taking my own advice, and I know this, right? So I have to call myself in a lot of the time on that. And what that reminds me of here, the way I'm seeing this is like, sometimes it can just be that, where you're like, oh, this behavior that it doesn't feel that great. And it's taking a step back and looking back in at it and saying, okay, I need to reformulate this, and not from a place of plan or expectation, but I need to step into my sense of power. So it's almost like when you disconnect from this, when you disconnect from it, I almost feel like this is also a sense of taking ownership, right? Where does your Leo kind of fire, right? Your joyful expansion, being seen, being willing to step into that expanse. This is an energy of not being afraid to shine. And I think that if you are fearful of transformation and letting situations that just fall away that need to, or new, if you're afraid of new, I think that can kind of make this energy into a truly antagonist energy, where it represents a power struggle, where you have to know the outcome. You have to know this sort of, it's like I'm hearing impatience. This is not the Temperance card, but I feel like it can be, right? Like this, like you're like, okay, come on, like what's going on? And that's not the point. The point is to let something go for good, because there's a new cycle that you're starting, whether you realize this or not. And creatively speaking, this could be with work. And this could be with multiple areas, right? The Pentacles can represent your physical environment. Well, they do represent your physical environment. So it could be that there are different things in terms of creative endeavors, passion, and home space that are changing. It could be physical context as well. Like there could be aspects of your environment, like, where you go every day. What do you do every day? Some people are going back to the office for the first time, at least in Southern Ontario, post-COVID, right? So a lot of people's physical environment is changing. And there's a lot of uncertainty around that still for many people who have some fears about it, right? So it's like that could be representative of letting go of, this could be as basic as feeling worried about, another wave or things like that. Like, so it's like the things that that needed to be let go of specifically are being transformed. And it's almost like, not, I don't want to say whether you like it or not. It's like you need to find the joy in it, because it's happening regardless. So, there's an Abraham Hicks saying that is like, you like describing it as like, let go or be dragged. Like, which one feels better? Because I know that, and I've, again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm sitting on some like high thing and being like, dispensing advice like Pez or something like that, but it's because I have as much work to do as the next person, and I enjoy doing it too. The point of doing this in terms of tarot and teaching and all of that stuff is not to show up as perfect, but to show up as wildly imperfect and talk about what I learn by letting go and letting God, right? By letting go and surrendering and being willing to say, ooh, this doesn't represent where I want to go. Okay, so let's bridge the gap. Now what? Right? So it's getting there and then talking about just what works. But that's where I think that the core component that I'm seeing here is like this willingness, right? Because this represents a strength. This represents a strength of will, right? Strength of will. But then this also represents a strength of will and that's where it can be willfulness. It's like willfully unaware because you've been so busy with your energy otherwise. But this is saying let it go so that you can be willfully aware. And you know, I'm thinking about this in terms of November 11th. So in Canada, it's Remembrance Day. And what I think about is the white poppy. And the white poppy represents peace. And how, you know, for a while, people would get quite upset that people would wear a white poppy instead of a red one. And it was this big discussion. But now the white one is more prominent because we are in a space of so many different power struggles in so many different places and these geopolitical things that are going on literally around the world, right? And this sense of uneasiness about that. I feel like this is where it's like you're leaning more towards peace. And that's where it's like the details sort themselves out when you take yourself out of the driver's seat to the extent that you feel you have to know it all from the get-go, because you don't, right? You don't. You don't. But that's where this kind of cycling out energy, right? And the lessons that you learned from the things that felt kind of hard. So this is Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, and Leo in here as well. So some fixed energy. And this could have been cycles that were really, they were kind of, I want to say like fixtures in your life. Like they were like almost like this chandelier that decorated this haunted house or something like that. Like that's where it's like it looked pretty, but fundamentally there were things lingering in the shadows, and the shadow is not something to be afraid of. But until you turn on the light and see it and work with it, it's really you will forever think that there's something lurking in the shadows, right? It could just be a window that needed to be closed that was blowing something that made you think that there was some spooky thing there, right? But this is where internally we need to really just like open, like blast the doors open on our heart centers so that we can let the light in, and then we can become the light. And I feel like that's where this is kind of the woman of light. It could be some divine feminine energy, but I feel like that's where it's like this transformation takes place in some measure because you're stepping into your power as this sort of light bringer, light worker, that kind of idea. So the main challenge is the Two of Cups, which is very interesting to me because this is emotional connection, love, receptivity as well, like receiving and giving love. And I find that really lovely because the main, one of the things that could become a tower is this receptivity energy, right? So I think the tower may be, and this is super interesting as the challenge, but I think that the tower may be that something loving shows up, or emotional connection shows up, or an invitation to emotional intimacy shows up. And that's sort of what makes you go like, whoa. And like you see the things that you've worked through. You see the completion here, the world card. You see how you applied yourself, how you applied the lessons, how you applied the movement forward, right? You see your growth. And I think this is really important energy. The Empress was on the bottom of the deck. That's the overcoming to me, where it's like you see it. You see it, and then you own this Empress energy because you're like, you know what? My energy is so beautiful that it's a snack. I am a font of good, right? 2 on the time. It could be a new pattern, a new cycle, I should say. And it feels like it, right? I'm an example of one who thrives. I don't need to go seeking because I call to me what I need, and what I need comes to me at any given time. Do I put in the work? Hell yes, I put in the work. However, there's a power within me that's so much greater than the forces outside of me. And I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to make a blessed impact. I'm here to make a nurturing impact that uplifts, that connects, that helps other people as much as it helps myself. That is my victory, because by letting go of all of these beliefs that no longer serve me, look at who I actually am. Look at who I am. Look at who I've become, right? Look at how I shine. Look at the light that I can now shine from within me, knowing that the shadows that I thought were these horrifying things were really just a cycle ending, and it was an invitation to something new. Holy channeling information. But that's how it's coming across in this Empress energy. So like, are you affirming that to yourself, or are you looking back at what was, right? So what you're awakening to is the Queen of Cups. And this is like, I feel like this is like knowing yourself at such a deep level, that it's like this fearlessness, but this absolute soft power of fearlessness. Like it's this soft power that it's like you're invoking. It's like an invocation. I'm going to write that down because I can. That's beautiful energy. It's like invoking your softness, And again, like these patterns that are ending here with this Seven of Wands and the Ten of Wands, it's almost like there's like, I'm hearing indefensible. Like there may have been things that have happened that could not be defended, and this is like, I think about indefensible and I think about lack of closure. We won't ever know why something happened to us, but we can choose what we do next with it. Okay, so that's an aside, but I think in this Queen of Cups energy, it's like you're invoking your softness as your power, your superpower, your strength now, right? It's not just about being seen, it's not just about the fire, but this integration of the ways that your power comes from your emotions. And what makes a physical environment that's a pentacular expression of our being rich is the cups. What makes it something that feels like home? There's a pentacle, but the cups are there too. And then what makes that someplace where we can expand and feel really powerful in our wand energy? All of it is connected, right? And then the clarity that comes from that and knowing who you are is the swords that lends it and blends it all together in this beautiful, it lends this wonderful flavor, right? It's like this seasoning is coming back into your life and into your aura, into your being. And, I think that's part of this gift where it's just something, it's so unassuming. It's just this unassuming energy. And again, I think about the feathers here. You could have angels around you, and seeing feathers, I know dimes are one thing for me that I sometimes see, but ultimately it's whatever that language is for you. But this here is speaking volumes about volume. So what just came to mind was like displacement and measurement. STEM and science. But just this, where it's like, if you put the pentacle in the cup, the displacement was what used to tell you it was valuable, right? So the liquid that was displaced when you would put it in would tell you how much that thing was, because the water that was displaced would then say however many milliliters, then you subtract it, and that's how you get the volume of what it is they're putting in the water. So for example, butter or whatever, if you're baking something, but it's almost like the water alone wasn't enough of a measurement, so you had to put the pentacle into the water to tell. But now you're understanding a different way of measuring that includes the pentacle, that includes it, that doesn't require on the displacement of another part of you to measure the value of that thing. So in terms of your physical environment, your worth, your income, your finances, your feeling of prosperity, right? Abundance, all of this stuff. So it's almost like that's so interesting. Thank you, Spirit. But that idea of displacement, it's like you're measuring something differently now. You're measuring in cups, like full cups, as opposed to what was displaced at the sort of inclusion of something else. And what a beautiful way to integrate if you're being called into relationship here, if you're being called into that energy. It truly is beautiful, because the Empress isn't just an energy of abundance and richness, right? That is part of it, but I feel like the Empress is also an embodied knowing, right? It's your felt sense. So it's knowing within you what's right for you, not just because your intuition is on fire. It's also because you just feel it. And when you move in the world in that energy, it's so delicious. It's so delicious, because this is a different kind of confidence as well, right? This is the strength of will and knowing that you can get it done. But then this is also the knowing that it's already done, and you're meeting it on the path, and you're making it look so good on the way, right? I think about Empress energy in terms of like when I'll anyway, I'm laughing at myself, but at my granny's house, there's nowhere to really go, but you just want to feel good. So you have like, I have like this little patch of hair on my chin. So I have this like beard brush because it gets itchy, and I just want to shape it well so that it's nice. And like, you have your favorite smell, a lotion that smells really good. It's very Taurian energy, I know, but so it's like this very sensual and embodied energy where you're like, I know I'm going to go out the store and I don't know what I'm going to do today, but I'm going to look like a damn snack, and I'm going to feel that good in my own skin. And that's part of, for me, transitioning, that was a big thing, right? Is just like that awareness of like, you're kind of hot, right? Like that the way that you move in the world is different when you're confidence shifts because these elements move, right? And this displacement, I'm going back to this in terms of the displacement here, right? It was almost like maybe there was one aspect of your belief system that like it required the displacement of your emotions in order for you to measure the volume and place of that in your life. But there's a different perspective that you're holding because it's one of true abundance as opposed to the inherited abundance or the inherited ideas of abundance based on this Six of Pentacles here. It's coming across as inherited. And then the main theme here is the Seven of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands. I'm hearing good things come to those who wait, yes, but those who take action as well. And this is, again, that embodied knowing, right? Seven of Pentacles is kind of a frustrated energy. I'm not going to lie. But I feel like the main lesson here is kind of seeing how you might have frustrated yourself in your own energy, perhaps. Like this is really getting clear on what was screwing with your wands and messing with your capacity to show up in the world, right? Because we kick things off with the Seven of Wands and the Ten of Wands. We also have more fire and like cyclical ending fire energy here. So it's like you're becoming aware of the way that you were in the Seven of Pentacles, frustrating your ability to manifest this rich, abundant context for yourself in placement in the world based on your belief system and values, yes, but also based on the way that you're like your relationship to resources, right? So it's like these beliefs kind of left you in the Seven of Pentacles place. It's almost coming across as a five, to be completely honest, but this is where it's like it's almost like being left out of your own awareness, like you're out of the cold of your own awareness, so you're frustrated and impatient. So there's a need for patience, yes, but on the other hand, I think you're very clear about how that was frustrating your energy and not allowing you to show up as your best creative self. It was allowing you to see how you were showing up as it's almost like it was like degenerative as opposed to generative, like it would pull away at your capacity to see all the things available to you. It pulled away at all of that. Yeah, the Fool. There you go. Go you. I'll stand on the side. Are you kidding me? The Ace of Cups and the Tower underneath and the Sun. I feel like this is it's not gonna, if this is about a relationship, I feel like you're not only ready to take the leap, but you're willing to. And I think that this is as much, I think happiness is unassuming, and isn't that the best kind? Because we have the Tower that clarified the Sun. And I think that there's something that's going to surprise you a little bit about how easy happiness feels and is, especially with you in this Empress energy and the overcoming, right? That's you directing the Sun. That's you directing how you want your happiness to look on the one hand, but you're calling things to you from this really rich place, right? It's from a depth that maybe it's not that you didn't have it before, but you confused your depth with your kind of depth of fire in terms of, you know, how much fire it takes to do something repeatedly in order to get it done. But then there was an emotional depth that was missing, which I think was a little bit of self-compassion, but I think things are about to get a whole lot easier for you if they haven't started to already. Let's see. I'm just going to clarify with a couple cards. Look at that. Six of Pentacles and the Moon. Yeah. It's almost like there's this, there was, well, I'm getting that there was this way that you were really unaware of your own view of giving and receiving. And it's like, you're a magnet for miracles. It's a Gabby Bernstein quote, but like, you're a magnet for miracles. So miracles aren't just a shift in perception, but the things that follow the shift in perception, where things just start working out for you, and you're like, how did that happen? But the key is not to go, how did that happen? And to say, man, thank you so much, Spirit. That's amazing. Like it's a different, don't try to understand it. And that's where I have this Page of Swords here. Like if you try to understand it exclusively, it's not that it's going to mystify you. The Queen of Wands came out with the Eight of Wands. Dang, that is fast movement. Six of Wands as well. Three of Wands, Ten of Swords, Knight. Okay. And that's where it's like we see the ending again, but it's like if you try to understand this, it's not going to serve your capacity to make things happen really quickly. If this is a relationship that you're coming to this reading about, it could also just be that there's a Queen of Wands in your vicinity who might be reaching out. This could also be a way that you're able to reach out and reach others with your fire. It could be some travel as well as the Eight of Wands. I mean, a lot of people did travel locally at least, or close by for Thanksgiving. And I know that on the 24th, I know a lot of people do for Diwali. That, you know, but, and there's other holidays in October too, but those are the two big ones, but, at least in the way that, anyway, but, I feel like there could be some travel where you connect to this part of you or you connect with. But ultimately, it's almost like this sense of like whatever you touch kind of turns to gold here. Like what you're touching turns to gold. And I don't know that you really realize that, but that's the best part of the Queen of Wands energy. It's again unassuming. It's unassuming strength and power. Now I'll pull from the Gabby Bernstein cards. So I combined the Universe Has Got Your Back and the Super Attractor deck because they're the same size, and I just wanted to see how the messages would work together for these readings. So surprise, we're doing it. Okay. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives for October 11th to close out this reading? My outer experiences are a reflection of my internal condition, big time. And sometimes this can make us feel, I mean, at least for me, there are times where when it hits my awareness, right? It hits my awareness and I think and this is very interesting because we had remember when I split this deck here, this one? It was the Six of Pentacles and the Moon, and I feel like that's what this is reflecting, right? My outer experiences are a reflection of my internal condition. Don't allow this to be a source of shame or feeling like, oh, well, shit. Like, kind of sit with that for a minute and be like, well, I can do better. I'm always doing better anyway, and soften that so that you can then see it and integrate it, right? Because ultimately that awareness is, the presence of love will always cast out fear. That's amazing because it's another moon energy. But I feel like that's where it's how things are starting to line up for you, or that's where things line up for you, is this awareness that your outer is a reflection of the inner. And even in really harsh circumstances, right? You can choose peace. I've had to do this many times where it's like, it's an alchemical process where you are working with your energy and you're saying, you know what? I get to choose. Somebody might have taken away my power in that moment to choose from that in that specific time frame, but I get to choose what I make of that now. I get to decide, right? And sometimes you've got to feel it out. You have to feel the pain of it and you have to let that go before you can truly move forward, right? So not being afraid of that process either, but just understanding that if you don't like where you are, the good news is that you're aware of it and you can always change it. No one's judging you as harshly as you judge yourself. And if they are, that's not a you problem. It really isn't. And you really have to get good at sifting through that, because if you've been trained to look to other people for judgment or a better or an assessment of where you are and what you should want, that in itself is a reflection of the outer condition that will be created, right? 3636 was just on the time. So it's like that's the energy that you have to remember. And it's like, and people will judge us for the weirdest things, and it never really has to do with us. Sometimes, and this is where the difference between judgment and being called in or being made aware of your behavior, right? There's differences in that, and they're not always subtle, like they're quite profound. And I think the thing is that people will always judge you. And, do you want to be a participant in that and judge yourself? It's up to you, right? It's up to you. So don't let the shitheads gets you down. Spiritual alignment puts that's actually judgmental. Sorry. Here I am being like, don't judge anyone, but they're shitheads. No, but just like, don't let that kind of behavior tell you and convince you that you deserve it or that that's who you are. Because like there are going to be people lined up around the block to give you a piece of their mind because you're entertaining that shit. You just can't. And you're worth so much more than that. You didn't come here to be other people's punching bags. You didn't come here to be other people's, lowest common denominator. You didn't come here to be somebody's lesson. You came here to learn lessons and to integrate that. So if you carry that with you, that's a choice that you're making, but you don't have to make that choice, right? So this is where your outer experiences are a reflection of your internal condition. So what thoughts are you prioritizing? What are you choosing to think about yourself and your capabilities and your capacity? Because the external will reflect that as it shifts and changes, right? Spiritual alignment puts my manifestation into motion. Yes, indeed it does. So this was a pretty straightforward message, but it ended up being 40 minutes anyway. So thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. And if this resonated, give it a like and subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel if you're not here already. If you are joining me from my subscriber base, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And as always, wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope it finds you very, very well, my friends. Take care.